Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 106 of the Whatnauts review show, where each week we have a different story to talk about. Could be a comic book, a movie, manga, something else. Who knows? We rate it, watch it, come back here and talk about it. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined, as always, by Melissa Wilkinson.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. This is my actual 100th episode. We
is.
celebrated the show's 100th episode some weeks ago, but there are 5 that you did without me, because there were 3 that happened before I got here, and there are 2 you did with Jess Beaver while I was in the middle of moving. So this is 100 for me.
You are correct. How does it feel to be 100 episodes old?
I feel old. The gray hairs are coming more every day.
There you go. I am very sleepy.
Okay.
I have not been sleeping well this past week, and last night was no exception to that. So unfortunately, I was like, I'm going to sleep in as much as I can before we have to record.
Yeah.
And then I'll get up. So that's where I'm at right now. I think it's going to be a good day for a nap after this. Naps are good. Naps are fun.
I took a nap yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah.
And now, are you a like 30-minute napper, or are you like a 3-hour napper?
It's one or the other. Like yesterday, I get up really early in the morning and I go grocery shopping like as soon as the senior hour is over. And so I got up early, I cooked breakfast, I went to the grocery store, I came back, unpacked and cleaned every grocery, laid down, took a nap, got up and made lunch. And by that time it was noon. So
Gotcha.
so I had a big day yesterday. Yeah, I gave myself an hour, and I think I only slept for like 20 minutes. Like
Gotcha.
It's like a doze or it's I am dead for 3 or 4 hours, and those are the 2 kinds of naps I'm able to take.
Yeah, that's sounds like me. I like to do the like 3-hour naps if I can, because sleep is fantastic. But sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
It's like, you slept for 15 minutes and you're good. Just like, I don't want to be good right now.
I'm disappointed.
I want more. Okay, let's see here. This week, we are talking about volumes 1 and 2 of Black Hammer. This is a comic book series written by Jeff Lemire and art by Dean Ormston, published by Dark Horse Comics. This is one that I have had on my radar for a while. It came out, I think, in like 2016, 2017. Yes, issue 1 was 2016. So I've heard good things for the past like 4 years, and I've just never dived in. And I like Jeff Lemire's like independent comics, stuff like that. I've not read much of his like actual superhero stuff, so I think this is like a good first step into that, where it's like, hey, if you've read some of his indie books, here's some with superheroes, but they're not really doing superheroic stuff. You kind of get bits and pieces, but it's not really about that. It's like, let's go punch the bad guy. It's not that, because that's what they say in all of the superhero
I remember
comics.
all the times Batman has said, I'm gonna go punch a bad guy. Don't stay up, Alfred.
Exactly. So this was one that I pitched, but Melissa, you picked it.
Yes.
What stood out about this book?
I have been really impressed by Jeff Lemire the other times we've read something from him. We read Plutona in fall 2018, which admittedly I don't remember specifically very much anymore, but I remember that I liked it. And then like last January or February, we read Essex County, and that has really stuck with me. Essex County is a haunting book.
It's really good. It's funny because you and I are kind of mirror opposites on that, where I really like Plutona, and I know I really liked Essex County, but I don't really remember Essex County.
I think I remember Essex County. Well, it's a story about people being sad in small towns in Canada.
Yeah.
And I read the whole thing on a day. It was January or February, and I was snowed in. Like there was a blizzard. So I'm just sitting there on my couch. I was inside all weekend, and I'm just watching it snow out my window. And I live on this very woodsy, forested apartment complex grounds. So it felt like I was also out in the Canadian wilderness. Oh, it was a time when like the media I was intaking and the situation I was in mirrored each other.
Perfect.
Kind of. So I think that made Essex County really stick out in my head as like not just a thing I read, but an entire experience.
That works. Yeah. That would make sense of like why that one stuck.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, Black Hammer in particular, yeah, I feel like this is a good mix of what you and I also really like in books, where I'm more of the like superhero comic stuff, and you're just like, I want just a good drama.
I do love superheroes, and there's nothing I love more than superheroes out of costume, like dealing with personal stuff in the aftermath of superhero action.
Yeah, and so this book has your name written all over it. Now that you've read volumes 1 and 2, what do you think?
I really liked it. I dug this one a lot. This was one I was excited to get back to and keep reading every night.
Yeah, I read the first volume, I think, Wednesday, and I liked it a lot. The like comic book nerd in me was like, oh, this is amazing. This is so good because there's so many Easter eggs. But then I read volume 2. I liked volume 2 a lot better. I still have my issues with the book overall. But I really enjoyed this. I think if you're a fan of superhero comics, but you want something a little bit different, this is an interesting one to pick up, because I think it's it's not like it's gonna sound bad, but stick with me here.
Okay.
These are like knockoff superheroes.
Yeah.
But they're not at the same time. Like it's the right mix of stuff where it's like, oh, okay, I can see where he's pulling inspiration from Captain America or from Doctor Strange or from Adam Strange or characters like that. And it's just like, I can see the direct correlation, but usually when that happens, the Superman type character is literally just Superman with his name changed.
Yeah.
And this is not the case. It's like 2 or 3 characters mixed in one with a completely unique name, where you still kind of get, okay, he's kind of like that archetype, right? But it's its own story. And it works out so perfectly. And I'm just like, this is really good. Like I like what they've created here. It's a good sandbox.
Like it's really strongly based on all of these recognizable superhero archetypes, the point of which is to like get you familiar, like get your feet wet really quickly. Like, oh, I see this guy, I get what he's about. Now, like, you know the superhero stuff already, so that lets you get into the personal matters behind it while kind of glossing over a lot of the exposition, because it's like, it's like this kind of guy, you know. Okay, now let's get going.
Yeah, exactly. So I liked it a lot. I'm excited to get into it. Let's do a synopsis for people who might not have read it yet.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of this thing before you pitched it to me.
There you
Of course,
go.
I am not as into comics as you are.
Yeah.
It was a fun surprise. The premise is cool.
It is. It is indeed. So this is about a group of superheroes who are trapped, and they don't exactly know if they're trapped in another dimension or what's happening. All they know is that they were fighting a villain named the Anti-God. It was this like multiversal crisis.
Just looks like a Galactus.
Yeah, it looks like four things all mixed into one. And this is where the comic book nerd in me is like, this is so cool. It's like four things mixed in one.
I do want your perspective on all these Easter eggs I'm not getting.
For sure. But yeah, so they are fighting him, and they save the day. They make their final stand, and there's this big flash of light, and all of a sudden they are transported to this rural farm in a town. I think that was called Rockwood.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of the town, but they're transported to this town, and they're stuck there. They're stuck there for 10 years, and they don't really know if this dimension that they're in is only this farm that they're on and the town, or if there's a wider world outside of that, or if they're on the same Earth, just in a different location, or if they're transported in time. They don't know.
Because they can't leave. Like, they've traced a perimeter. It's like, we can go this many miles in any direction. It seems like the townspeople come and go. Like, we hear about somebody traveling to another town. We can't leave. We don't know if the world is still outside of that perimeter or if we are in a pocket dimension.
Exactly. So they're, like Melissa suggested, it kind of gets the superhero stuff of like, oh, this guy's like that. Right? Yeah. Okay. Moving on. And it starts to tell this very human story of people trying to fit in, trying to make a life for themselves. Like, do they settle with just being stuck in this town? Do they try and figure out how to get home? And so it's a lot of stories like that. And stuff like that, and it's good. It's very, very good. Do you want to add anything to the premise there?
I will say aesthetically, it leans a lot on like Golden Age superheroes in terms of the art and in terms of within the narrative itself. The characters are kind of aware of these. They're like, oh, I remember fighting that guy back in the Golden Age. Like, these ages exist to them in the history of superheroes in their city.
Yeah, I'd say like Golden Age through the 80s.
Yeah,
like
it gets up there.
Mid 80s.
Through to the 90s a little bit, because there is a flashback where Abraham Slam is like, I gotta upgrade to keep up with the times, and he's covered in Rob Liefeld pouches.
Yeah. It's fantastic. In fact, on that cover, the issue where that happens, Jeff Lemire did the cover, and instead of signing it Jeff Lemire, he signs it Lemirefeld. So it's good stuff. There's tons of references and Easter eggs to all sorts of stuff. But we will get into that in just a sec when we dive into spoilers and all of that. But first, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. If you did not know, we have multiple podcasts here at the Whatnauts. You guys can go check them all out on our website, thewhatnauts.com. or on your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Just type in the Whatnauts and all of our shows will pop up right there. If you guys like what we do, patreon.com/the Whatnauts is where you can support us for $1 a month or more. At our $3 tier, we have some exclusive content that you guys can check out, which, by the way, Melissa, you and I kind of need to talk about figuring out something, because we said we were going to do something, and we need to get recording that.
I'm ready. Let's put it on the calendar.
Let's do it. So yeah, be on the lookout for some more exclusive content coming up down the road. But we would also like to give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier. So thank you to Sam for keeping the mics on. We appreciate it a lot. It helps us out. It really, really does. But that being said, I think that's about it for housekeeping. Let's see if my spoilers thing works. Come on, Schwartz. Come on, Schwartz. It's not happening.
Oh, no. Well, just know to beware.
It will probably happen randomly from any point now until the end of the podcast. It's Russian roulette with the spoiler alert.
Well, just hark, audience. Hear our voices.
Hark, spoilers. Yeah. Okay, let's dive in. And let's dive into spoilers. So, what was the first thing that you noticed about this book, or what was because you said you really dug it. What was the first thing where you were just like, oh, I love this book. This is great.
It's a really interesting cast of superhero archetypes that they've pulled together. Because you've got Abraham Slam, who's kind of like a Captain America if there was no super serum involved, if he just got that buff through training.
Yeah.
And he's got that kind of all-American good guy
Red
sort
blood.
of deal.
Oh, there it is. Spoiler alert.
Oh. Beware the rest of the superheroes. You've Golden Gale, who I really want to talk about. She's a really neat Shazam twist. You've got Barbalian, who's a Martian Manhunter. And like everybody has seen, like knows the visuals and the name Martian Manhunter, but I don't know that much about him. So the fact that Martian Manhunter is one of the most important archetypes this book is drawing on is a really neat pull there.
Well,
and then you've got
with Barbalian in particular, his like full title is Barbalian Warlord of Mars. So he's also kind of pulling on the like John Carter Warlord of Mars, Conan the Barbarian, which is where his name comes from, Barbalian. So.
That's something I also dug, was this mix of comic books, but also like pulp books, like Colonel Weird. He's got some Doctor Strange in there, but there's also like a big dose of Buck Rogers in there too.
Yeah, he's more Adam Strange, Flash Gordon,
yes.
Buck Rogers. Yeah, like he's that stuff. One of the things that his character in particular reminded me of was when we covered Spencer and Locke, which was the spoof on Calvin and Hobbes, if they were grown up to be like hard-boiled crime detectives. Yeah. It's a fantastic book. But they do some stuff with like Spaceman Spiff. Yes. And they kind of do that same thing with this character too. And I loved it. I was like, this is great. I like this.
Yeah. He's got Talkie Walkie, who's this kind of lost in space looking robot. And then you've got Madame Dragonfly, who's like kind of a Scarlet Witch, but also has a lot of old like Tales from the Crypt horror comics to her. So I liked that it wasn't like, we've got a Superman and a Batman and a Wonder Woman and a Spider-Man. Like the story picked really odd and unusual archetypes, like all ones you recognize, but not the major players you would think to throw together in a story like this. And exactly. Black Hammer himself is like a Green Lantern, which I always like to see.
Mixed with horror, because he has the...
And like the folk hero John Henry, you've got folk heroes in here too, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. So that stuff is neat. I think the first thing that really made me just go, oh, I love this book was in Easter egg in volume 1. But volume 1 is kind of like it tells you the like initial story of like, okay, here's the setup, right? But each issue focuses more so on one of the characters. So it's kind of like an introduction to each character and their origin story and how they came to be where they are, which on one hand, I didn't necessarily like that setup to volume 1. Like, if all you read is volume 1, I don't know if that will hook you enough. It's still good, but it hasn't really gotten into its own story yet.
Yeah, like it's a lot of exposition and backstory, but it's not quite to mythology and mystery yet. That kicks in when Lucy shows up in volume 2.
Yeah, but like end of volume 1, kind of. But yeah, so I think it was that that last issue or second to last issue of volume 1, and they are doing the backstory of Madame Dragonfly. And yeah, like you mentioned, there's a lot of like Tales from the Crypt horror stuff. But there's 2 characters that come to see the witch. They're just these two redneck characters named Bernie and Lenny.
Yes.
And I was
Len.
Len. And I was like, oh, I immediately recognize who these people are. This is great. What an awesome Easter egg. And they are named after Bernie Wrightson and Len Wein, who wrote a bunch of Swamp Thing comics and did the art on that. And I was just like, this is great.
Yeah, and I think it's Len that turns into a Swamp Thing, who I think they call Muck Thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like knowing that their Superman type character is actually more a mix of Green Lantern and Thor is like, I like that. Like I like how they're like just barely rotating the like what you would think things would be. You'd think it would fit in this one particular way. Yeah. But it just slightly turned. And I was like, I really like that. I think that was the stuff that hooked me.
Yeah. This story is an amazing balance of we're going to pull things that you recognize, and then we're going to take all these recognizable things and kind of smash them together. And it's great. It feels really original, but it's got that familiar archetypal shortcut, like really effective shortcut work to it. Like it doesn't feel cheap or too much of a spoof or a satire or anything.
Yeah. The only other things I want to mention in that kind of vein is that Black Hammer, when he first like takes over the powers and he lifts up the hammer, he gets transported to this location. He doesn't really know where it is at first, and it's a mix between Asgard and I forget what they call it off the top of my head, but the place that the new gods are Jack Kirby's new new gods, because there's a spoof of Mr. Miracle there and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, I like this. It's like, let's take the Marvel version and the DC version and just mash them up and do this thing here. I like it.
And like what that reminded me of is the kind of temple where Billy Baxton goes to meet the wizard who's going to give him the Shazam powers. And I like that they kind of pulled that out separate from the actual Shazam character. It's like, we're going to take the whole Shazam mythos is there, but we like broke it up. So it's divided like 90-10 among the cast.
Yeah, that was neat. And then the character of, I forget, with the like Odin All-Father figure there in that like new gods situation. I forget his name, but he mentions that anti-god.
It's something real spacey.
Yeah, it's like Starlock or something. But he mentions that anti-god is his twin brother, and then like you see anti-god, and his face looks like Darkseid from DC Comics.
Oh,
but then
yes.
he has on the like Galactus looking hat. But this whole like multiversal crisis that we don't really get to see a lot of, we get bits and pieces. That's like Crisis on Infinite Earths. There's a whole thing with the sky turning red. There's this big flash of white light, the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor, and his name is Anti-God.
Yeah.
So it's just like they just had their Crisis on Infinite Earths, and this is what happened to them. So I was like, this is really neat. And I am a big post-crisis DC Comics fan, so I'm just like, yes, I love this. This is great.
And I'm a big fan of sad things in small towns. So there's something here for all of us. I want to talk about Gale, because I think she is the neatest twist on the superhero mythology that they are borrowing from. She's the Shazam character. She's like a 9-year-old orphan. She runs away. A wizard gives her these powers. She transforms into this
theater, in like an abandoned movie
Right.
theater.
And I don't know if that is specifically from something, but it feels like it is. And it's just a great setting in general. Like, I was given a mysterious movie ticket and I go in the theater and there's a wizard on the stage. So she transforms into this superhero alter ego who is also 9 years old. But as she continues to age, the superhero alter ego, like she shouts the wizard's name, Zaphram, her alter ego is always 9 years old. So she's fighting this big crisis as a 9-year-old. They get thrown into this farm. Everybody's stuck on the farm. Everybody's stuck in the town, and they're stuck in the forms they transported in, kind of. She can't change back. So she's like 53 years old in the body of a 9-year-old girl, and she's been stuck like this for 10 years.
She still has a smoking
smokes, habit. Drinks.
Yeah. But it's like, okay, well, you have to blend in, so 4th grade. Here we go. Yeah. But I think what's neat with that is all right, so I haven't read much of Shazam stuff.
I've just seen the movie. That's all I know.
The Shazam movie on one of our podcasts, the Reactor Core, so go check that out. But yeah, I don't know much about the like Shazam family. And so I don't know what their origin stories are exactly, but I liked what they did in this book where she is getting older, and it's like, I kind of want to retire and like set other people up to continue this. And so she finds a couple other people to like give some of her powers to, and eventually she's just like, all right, that's it for me. I'm off to go make lovey-dovey with Dr. Sherlock Frankenstein, my arch nemesis.
Which I love as a name, and the fact that she's been fighting this man. Presumably they've like grown up together, and she's like, hey, this is the real me. I see you've really cleaned up your act. You're using science for the powers of good. Let's make out.
Yeah,
I love that twist.
Closely.
Yes.
For a long time. Want to make it closer. So yeah, it's good stuff. I like what they did. I think the most emotional moment in this book came with her when she is at the point of just like, I am fed up. I think I'm going to try and basically kill myself and go out to the boundary and walk into this energy field. We don't really know what it is with this, and Barbalian figures out what she's up to immediately and is just like, I need you.
You're my
do this.
best
And I was just like,
friend.
I was like, oh, I love these characters. They're good.
Yeah.
I like them.
And she kind of has a crush on him, but he's like, you're in the body of a 9-year-old girl, and I'm an adult gay man alien.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was an interesting storyline too, where he is gay, and
they
meets
don't
a
like it
priest.
on Mars either. Like, you see him back on Mars, and they're like, "But there have been rumors about you, Mark Marks," and like you get the sense that like he is gay, but you don't know if that's what they're talking about on Mars. Like, does Mars care about that? Oh, Mars does care about that. I didn't know this existed on Mars. Mars is also prejudiced against him, and he goes to like 1940s Earth, and the same thing happens to him there. This poor man.
It's like, dang it, I can't figure this out. But yeah, like that was it was a good storyline. I don't know if I connected with that one as much. I just I don't know. Like I didn't like the priest.
I
feel like he's up to something.
I liked him, and I took that as like I was surprised and disappointed that didn't get off the ground, because like I'm secretly dating the new town priest is such like good, juicy, small town drama. Yeah. And I really wanted to see that happening in the background of everything. Instead, the priest is like, I thought you just needed a friend. You know, I'm new here in town. I thought I'd make a friend here. This isn't what you think it is. And Mark's like, I really thought I was reading your signals correctly. Are you sure there's something you're not telling me?
So, and I don't know if it's the way that the characters were drawn or what, but yeah, I read that very differently. Like I read it in the sense that Barbalian liked him. He thought it was like, oh, maybe this guy likes me, but I just couldn't shake the fact that I was like, that priest seems evil. Like, what? Like, why is he looking at Barbalian like that? That's weird. Like, he has this evil look to him. And then, there's the whole mystery of that, like, well, we kind of know that people can come and go in this town, but they don't really mention it besides mentioning it. And then all of a sudden, here's a new character to the town. They just moved there. And I was just like, I don't know. Like, something seems up here.
I really like how they develop the town throughout book 2 and like the mystery of the town.
Yeah.
Especially when Lucy comes in and she's like, do you know where you are? And they're like, well, we know the name of the town. She's like, do you know anything else?
10 years and that's all you know?
You didn't do any research? And so she goes to the library and she looks at books on town history and all of them are blank. At which point you know, oh, there is something. It's not like, well, of course there's something wrong up with why were these superheroes sent to this small town? But then it's like, oh no, this is not a legitimate small town that people are supernaturally stuck in. The town itself is bad, weird news with some sort of conspiracy going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so I do have to say, go ahead.
No, is it Madam Dragonfly when she kills the sheriff? She says, I can't allow you to continue. You're going to become a supervillain.
I think it was more the idea that like you are becoming a supervillain, like you are becoming an antagonist, and we don't want that.
No, but it feels really purposeful, like the way she says, like, I can't allow you to become a supervillain. Like there's some sort of rules here in the town that like anything resembling their old superhero life is like legitimately like consciously cut out. It's like we can't have a supervillain. And there's all these conflicts that arise that I started to think more about as volume 2 progressed. Like Abraham has got this relationship with the waitress, and this sheriff is her ex-husband. And when Madam Dragonfly kills the sheriff, of course Abraham is the prime suspect, and even the waitress Tammy is like, Abraham, I'm not saying I suspect you, but let's cool it for a little while. I know he was a jerk and I divorced him, but we were still married for a long time. I feel weird now that he's been murdered. I need some time to process this. So there's like this schism between the two of them. And then it seems like, is this priest legitimately interested in Mark? And then there's the schism there. And then I start thinking about the way all the townspeople treat Gail. Gail, who is 9 years old, running around stealing cigarettes and smoking and drinking. Everybody's angry at her. Like, there's nobody in the town who's like, is she okay? Does she need help? Like, nobody's concerned for Gail. They're just angry at Gail. And I wonder if there's something in the town where it's like, you are not allowed to prosper. You are not allowed to be heroes in anybody's eyes here. You are not allowed the sympathy and the town warmth that you would have had back as superheroes in Spiral City. I'm like, are these separate individual accounts of just people not connecting, not engaging, like not sympathizing with our main characters? Or is there a plot reason where it's like all of these things are happening at once? You have no allies here.
Yeah. So I do have to say that I also read Volume 3. I won't spoil things. I won't talk about things past Volume 2, but I do know a lot more of what is happening. So if it like Volume 3 serves as a big reveal of what is actually happening, and it's a good mix of like Hellboy comics mixed with Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol. It gets weird.
I did get Doom Patrol vibes off of this thing for sure.
Yeah, so it dives more into that. And it's very good. I liked it, but yeah.
Is that also on Comixology Unlimited?
Yes, Volume 3 is. I don't think Volume 4 is, though.
Okay, because after I finished reading Volume 2, like the next thing Comixology recommended to me was like, here's the individual issue of issue 1 you can download. So I'm like, I thought
they do that sometimes, yeah.
Okay, I thought there must not have been a Volume 3 out yet, because otherwise Comixology would have said, "What? Read this next."
No, so we read the first 2 volumes. It was Black Hammer and let's see, Black Hammer: Age of Doom. I think is the 2 that we read there, and then kind of in between those, Jeff Lemire put out a bunch of like spin-off titles. There is a Sherlock Frankenstein and the Legion of Evil 4-issue miniseries.
Yes, 4 whole issues.
Dr. Star in the Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows. There's that one. There's like some free comic book day short stories. Let's see. There's also the last big notable one I'll mention here is they did a Justice League Black Hammer crossover.
Whoa.
And they've done some stuff like that. There's a Colonel Weird miniseries, a Barbalian miniseries. Like there's all sorts of stuff. Right? I guess the Colonel Weird one is coming, and the Barbalian one is coming 2020 sometime. That might end up being more like 2021 with all the coronavirus stuff. But who knows? But yeah, so there's all of these like little spin-off series. I don't know what they go into. I've not read them, but yeah, the like Black Hammer Volume 3 serves as the like big reveal of what is actually happening in the town. So, well, I mean, I guess I haven't read Volume 4, so maybe there's another twist on top of that. I don't know.
Yeah, but, seems plausible.
You're on to something. I will say that.
Nice.
The one I think, yeah, it's also important to note that who was the character that kept saving them from all of these things when Gale got in trouble at school and got caught smoking, who was the one that bailed her out. When the police officer starts being like following them and starts being more of an antagonist, who's the one that kills them. Something is up with Madame Dragonfly.
Yeah.
Because we also know that when Lucy shows up, the first thing she does is erase her memory.
Oh, yes.
That's the end of volume 1, and I was just like, "What are you doing? Why would you do that? That makes no sense." And then she's just like, "I have no idea why I'm here." I also want to talk about Colonel Weird, because there's something weird with him too.
Yeah.
So I liked his character a lot. That he is, he's stuck there, and he's the character that deals with like these tiny pocket dimensions and all sorts of weird space stuff, and it's basically broken him.
Yes.
In the sense that it like he can kind of see the future. He's like, I've seen how this works out. This is not what we need to do. Like, you know, all of that stuff. But he's so far gone that he thinks he can't tell people. He thinks they won't understand because he also recognizes that it broke him, and he doesn't want to burden them with this stuff. He's like, I've done some dangerous things, and it's messed me up. I don't want to have that happen to you. And so I don't know. Like on one hand, I feel like his character has become useless. But on the other hand, like in his own way, he is trying to protect them.
Yes. And
being like, I wish I could tell you this stuff, but I really can't, because look at me. This is what will happen. And he's just like, it's not good.
Yeah. Like his mind is so scattered. And like it seems like he's not really in control of where he is at any given time. Right. He'll just like float through a wall, and he's like, I guess I'm here now. Like his entire being is just operating on a track he's not in control of. So like what he does have the faculties and the resources and the presence of mind to say to somebody, he really thinks it's a bad idea, because he has knowledge no man is meant to have. Like he has encountered like true cosmic ethereal horrors. He's like, this isn't for anybody. I saw my girlfriend split into multiple layers, skin, muscles, bones, just like splayed out like a Body Worlds exhibit floating out in the parazone. It's like, nobody needs this. I'm just gonna wish you a nice day and keep floating through the wall.
Yeah. Or he'll end up saying something that turns out was from a past conversation or a future conversation, and they're just like, what are you talking about? Like, this has nothing to do with what's happening right now.
In like some lore or like some book somewhere, there's a version of Merlin, like classic old King Arthur Merlin, where like he lives his life backwards. So like he knows things. Like he's lived things that haven't happened yet, and he doesn't know how to interact with the people around him, like what clues to give them, or if he gave them clues, would they understand? Does this rely on information they don't have yet?
Huh. I have never heard that one.
I think
that's interesting.
I hope I didn't make that up. There's one story somewhere that is a backwards Merlin, but I don't know what the story is or how old it is, or if it's like respected. It's like, yeah, it's part of Arthurian canon. Merlin lives backwards.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite characters though, because he seems so tortured, and there's nothing he can do. Like for Barbalian, like there is stuff that he can do. Like sure, he got rejected, but like there's at least a conversation he can have. There's someone he can go to to help him out. And even with Talkie-Walkie, who was his sidekick for a long time, he can now no longer connect with because he's just so broken.
Yeah, and like you would imagine a robot would not be haunted by a horror in the same way another person or humanoid type entity would be, but still he doesn't talk to her. Like they've still got an emotional bond, but she doesn't travel with him. He's not letting her in on anything. I love Talkie-Walkie. Like she's not in it very much. I love that it's just this robot that they have around the house. And it's not until like late in volume 1 that you find out that's a female robot.
Right, yeah.
And she kind of like had a crush on Colonel Weird when he was young and they were out adventuring through space together. It's really sad. It reminded me of a couple weeks ago when I was talking to you about Flubber for 20 solid minutes and how the Robin
this was
Williams
on the captain's log. By the way, you guys can go check that out on our website, thewhatnauts.com.
It's the podcast, our general chat show where we talk about anything, and I wanted to do a deep, serious chunk on Flubber because, like, the Robin Williams mad scientist has this little female robot who's his lab assistant, and she is like pining for him, and somebody's breaking into his lab to steal some of his science, and they shoot her, and she dies in his arms.
Awful. But yeah, I wonder if Flubber was secretly an influence on Black Hammer. Jeff Lemire, what were your influences on this book? Well, I really love superheroes and Flubber. Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's we haven't really talked about Abraham Slam yet.
Yeah, our main character.
Kind of serves as the main character.
And he's the most
go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say he's the most down to earth. Like there's nothing supernatural, sci-fi, paranormal about him at all. He was just a little guy who trained a lot and got very strong and went around beating people up in the city for the forces of good. And he's now this like, and he was like among the earliest superheroes in Spiral City, it seems like. And like there was a time where he's like, I'm too old for this. I gotta get out of the game. And now, he has continued to age. He's a man in his like 60s or 70s or something. Just the sad old man. And he feels the most Essex County to me, which was a story about just sad, normal people and the regrets of growing old. I like that we had this very traditional, like, just melancholy slice of life story character as like the central point that all of the weird stuff operates around. We've got one just sort of like, I'm a guy. I'm big.
Yeah, he's the one that was kind of least effective. Like he basically got what he want in this, but he was like, I want out of the game. I just want to live a normal life. And boom, now all of a sudden he is living a normal as you can be life, where he is farming. He's like, okay, be back in an hour. Dinner's at 6.
Yeah,
right? Like he's the most fine if they don't get out of this dimension. He's just like, well, this is kind of what I wanted. So
he's interesting because with his backstory as I just trained and got very strong, like Gale was bestowed with powers. It was Joseph Henry. Like what is Black Hammer's real name? That
I don't remember.
That guy, he's like, he was a man. He was just like, he was a social worker. He worked at a soup kitchen, and then like an alien falls down from the sky like in Green Lantern, and now he's got these powers. He was bestowed with powers. They're bestowed with powers. Madam Dragonfly bestowed. Colonel Weird kind of, he's like a space officer, but he goes out there and like he finds grander things. Barbalian, alien, has special alien powers. Abraham Slam is a guy who just chose to like, I want to get stronger. I want to help people. Like, he had to make the greatest leaps to go from normal person to superhero. Like, he did it of his own accord, by his own choice, because he wanted to. And so he had this major struggle.
Picked himself up by his bootstraps.
Yeah, he did the most work to become a superhero. And it's interesting that now that they're stuck in the simple life, he so quickly is like, okay, simple life. All right. Like, he just falls back into doing it so quickly. You would think that the person who fought to become a superhero would fight to become a superhero again. And he is just accepting of the small, quiet farm life. And he wants to, like, he has aspirations of settling down with Tammy, but he knows that, like, he tells her over and over again, he's like, it's complicated. Like, it takes forever for him to bring her to the house for dinner. And she's like, how about I spend the night? And he's like, how about if I come over to your place where we're not going to have an old man float through the wall?
And say some, like, weird offbeat thing, and there's not going to be a nine-year-old chain smoking and drinking alcohol.
Yeah, we don't have a robot making eggs in the morning.
Yeah. How do you like your eggs, Tammy? Yeah, like I liked his character. He was just like, I think he was also one of the characters that I don't know if I could connect with as much, but I think he was a good driving force for the, like, human side of things. Like, he was the one that was, he wasn't really actively doing this, but I felt like he was kind of the one that was calling people to just, like, you know what? Let's calm down. The situation is not that bad. We can live. We can survive. We have to blend in and change some things, but we can make this work. And then they're all like, you can blend in. I'm an alien. And she's like,
well, he can't transform into, like, a big Mr. Clean looking guy.
I mean, if he puts the suit on, but yeah, but, like, still, like, it's like he was the heart of it all, but he's a heart that is lonely and sad, but he's still content with being there.
Yeah, he's optimistic. Like, everybody else is really kind of resigned to their fates. You know, some are, like, Yale are taking it, like, very, very badly. And he's like, no, we can make a life here. We should be happy we are still alive. And that Black Hammer went and, like, flew into the force field, and it told us there is a force field. Like, it's bad that he's dead, but now we know, and we're not dead because we didn't follow his example. Like, he is somebody who finds the brighter sides of things. Like, he has the most heroic spirit to him still. Even if he's not doing anything super heroic, he's still got that, like, teamwork. Like, let's all help out. Let's support each other. Let's help each other. Let's believe. Let's be grateful for what we have, what we're able to do. Let's believe that we can find a way to work through everything. He's a peacekeeper. Yeah. He is a good center point to everything, I think. And he's, like, the intro character. He's, like, the character we get to know first in, like, issue 1. And I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Just normal, sad old man. Sad but optimistic old man. And then his family of angry, permanent 9-year-olds and aliens and robots and floating men, etc.
Yeah. Personally, I don't think I would call him optimistic. Whereas he's more content in my mind. He's not necessarily hopeful that they're gonna figure it out or make it, you know, find a way home. But he's okay with where things are at. If they don't get out, well, I got the simple farm life that I wanted. So.
Yeah, like Barbalian's angsting over asking out that priest. Like, oh, does he like me? Should I do it? And Abraham's more like, I like Tammy. I'm going to ask out Tammy. Like, he worries about it a lot, but he goes out there and he does the thing.
Yeah, indeed. How did you like Tammy, the like local waitress at the diner?
I liked her too. She seems like a pretty well-rounded character. She could be a little bit more stock archetypey, but she's got something to her. She's really She doesn't take guff from anybody. Like, she's really tough, but she's not aggressive. She's very understanding about the whole family. Like, she's a lot of patience with Gale. She has more patience with Gale than a single other soul in the town.
Yeah. I think she's maybe one of the best characters in the sense that this is really where the human stories shine through. Just in her relationship with Abraham, just this whole idea of like, I'm dealing with my ex-husband who's not really my ex-husband yet. The paperwork isn't final. But like it's we're basically separated. It's gonna happen soon, but he's still in love with her and all of that stuff. And like, there's just this drama that is there that I think really grounds the story. But she also comes with this wisdom when she finally meets Abraham's family, these other superheroes, and she's just like, family is supposed to be crazy and wild, and you don't get along with them all, and they might say something stupid, or you know, and she's just like, I actually like them.
Yes,
they're fine. Like, you had nothing to be scared of. So stuff like that, I think, really grounds the book, especially because we didn't get as much with the barbarian priest storyline. We got a bit, but not the same amount, right?
Yeah.
I think if we had seen more of Gale and Sherlock Frankenstein, that also would have grounded it more. But that's one that we see in a flashback. It's like, that happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, wild stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else? Do I have anything that I wanted to say about this book?
Oh, you know what happens for at least several more issues, but there's a lot I'm curious about. I really want to get back to Madame Dragonfly and her whole backstory. How, like, the story shows us, like, oh yeah, she had a baby with Muck Thing, and the baby died. And we're not going to tell you why, because it's like, some stories are too terrifying to behold. Like, that issue of her backstory is kind of like this... this like horror comics narration to it of, dear reader, let me spare you the sights that will haunt your soul.
Was that a kid that she had with the Muck Thing, or was that her original baby? Because what we see originally is this woman whose baby just died. She goes to this witch, and she's like the classic old wrinkly witch with the long nose and stuff like that. And she makes a deal with this witch that she will become the new caretaker of this mysterious house, which then turns her into the witch. She's not as old and wrinkly, but she is now the witch. The original witch can go free, but it seemed like the witch kind of took the baby, or like the baby disappeared, and she didn't get it back, and that was part of the deal. Like, you will get your child back later on.
Yes.
So I was wondering if that grave was just her resigned to, I guess I'm not getting my baby back.
Chilies. Baby back.
I want my baby back.
I think when the when she first inherits the cabin, I think like the corpse of her baby entirely disappears. Doesn't I might be wrong about this, but that's the way I think I'm remembering it. Like, she wouldn't have anything to bury at that point. She just looks around. She's like, "Where's the witch? Where's my baby?" The witch is like, "You'll get the baby. Just you wait. You will get the baby in another form.
Meet me at Chili's."
And then she gets pregnant with Muck Thing's baby. And like, then the narration's like, "But there's two stories too terrible to behold," or something like that.
I must have missed that panel.
You see her. kneeling down at the grave. And it's a grave, and it's like covered with thorns and things like that. Oh, maybe it just looked like if your dad was a muck thing, that is like the legacy you would pass on to child. Like, let's drape like moss and thorns and things over this to remind you of your father. Yeah. And then muck thing is theoretically maybe out there. This is something I was really not expecting. Like, you see, here's the farm, here's the farmhouse, there's like the barn where Talkie Walkie works on things, and here's this little cabin where Madame Dragonfly lives. And you wonder if like she adopted that cabin after they moved there, and then you find out like she inherited this cabin from the witch, and it's like, oh, they must have been transported back to like where the cabin is. No, she goes from her cabin,
came with them.
Yes, she goes from her cabin to Spiral City to help out fighting the anti-god, and then when they're thrown into this random farm town in the middle of nowhere, the cabin is there waiting for her. The cabin traveled to meet her. It's really interesting.
Yeah. I don't think Muck Thing is out there with them. It's ambiguous, but
she leaves Muck Thing to go to Spiral City. She goes from Spiral City to this little farm town. So Muck Thing is ambiguously possibly still out there the same way like
right.
Sherlock Frankenstein or anybody else is still out there in like that real world that it seems they have left.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking more of like on the farm in the town.
No, he's in the swamps, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that cabin is strange.
Yeah.
For sure. It's a weird one. They keep mentioning like it's one of those houses that look small on the outside, but you go in and it's like, there are too many rooms in here.
Too many
like,
doors.
Yeah.
And like Lucy's going to go up and talk to her, and she's about to like knock on the door, and then a big eyeball just peers out the window, and then Lucy's like, I'm leaving. And perhaps I will call upon you another day.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that stuff, that it's just like in the middle of this like normal rural town. There's just this like weird cabin with a giant eyeball inside it, and a witch who lives there. Yeah, that's really funny. She's a good character. Stuff that I would like to know more about. I want to see more of Spiral City and what happened there, because Lucy is really the only character that we get after the events of the crisis. She is like 10 years down the road. I'm now an investigative journalist. I'm the Lois Lane figure.
Yep.
But my dad was the original, or not the original, but my dad was Black Hammer, and I believe he's still alive. And I'm gonna figure it out. And then the X-Files
right. Yes.
goes. And that's about all we see. Then there's this probe that Walkie Talkie had sent out, and it crashes on I don't remember where, if it was in Spiral City or it was somewhere else. But she finds this probe. She goes to this like astronomer that was like, NASA can't see this thing, but I have instruments that NASA doesn't have. My telescope is bigger than NASA's. But there's like a gateway there. Look. And she's like, yeah, there's a gateway there. That's weird. And that's basically all we get of what happens in Spiral City afterwards. I would like to know what is happening in Spiral City now.
Yeah.
Have they really moved on? What is Dr. Frankenstein up to? Is he like broken that Gale is now gone? We know the other, I don't remember their names, but the like Marvel family version, they're all dead now.
Yes.
Yeah, like or at least that's what we think, because it's like we know a lot of superheroes died fighting this thing. Like this was the last stand that these superheroes did. So it's like, we don't know who's still out there, what's happening. So yeah, that's one thing that I would be interested in finding out more of.
Was there a next wave of superheroes? Was there any like low level, like street level heroes that were around back then but weren't a part of the anti-god fight? Because they're like, I'm just like a daredevil type guy. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm just down here on the ground, like making sure like it's bystanders are in safe areas. Like, is there somebody left? Did new people crop up? I'm curious if Lucy's mom is still alive. I would assume so, because they don't tell us that she's dead, but who really knows? Yeah, who's out there like pining and looking for these superheroes?
Yeah.
What's Mars up to? Was Mars ever like, where did Mark Marks go? Should somebody check on him?
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of good stuff, and I enjoyed Volume 3 as well. I would love to check out Volume 4 and then some of these side stories. I'm sure some of that stuff is in there, maybe.
Yeah.
Or at least we get glimpses of what's happening. But like I kind of mentioned earlier, Jeff Lemire is still making stories within the stuff. I do want to point out that Colonel Weird miniseries that is supposed to be out in 2020 sometime is written by Jeff Lemire, art by Tyler Crook, who did Harrow County, which we did an episode on, and his art was fantastic.
God, what a team up. That's going to be so spooky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so much disembodied skin.
Ugh, Skin Boy.
Skin Boy.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. I like where this is going a lot. This is one of those neat things to see, because you don't see very many superhero comics outside of Marvel and DC that make it big.
Yeah.
Right? Like you might have like a smaller book and that's really cool, and it's just this person's take on, something. But not very many of them like make it, I think, to this level of like it's hit the mainstream. It like within the comics world, you have this, you have Invincible, and then you have all of Valiant comics, which is just, that's what that publisher does. It's like, hey, we have superhero comics and they're not Marvel and DC, but we don't publish like 60 books each week. It's like, we got 8 books.
You can keep up.
It's good. Yeah. Or like this, where it's like, you have the volume that I give you and that's it. And it's like, I like that. Like, I like the world building that they're slowly making. And then all of these like spin-off things. I'm just like, this is good. Good stuff. Stuff indeed. Do you want to move on to recommendations?
Yeah.
Okay. What would you recommend to someone who liked this book?
If you like the sad small town parts of it, read Essex County. You mentioned Harrow County. That's great if you just want more spooky. They give you like the Colonel Weird and Madame Dragonfly side of the story with a little bit of like the small town. What life exists for me outside of this farm. Read Harrow County. Doom Patrol. I feel like Doom Patrol I've mentioned several times as a recommendation. I've also mentioned Thrilling Adventure Hour so many times. But like there is a story in Thrilling Adventure Hour called Sparks Nevada, Marshall on Mars, and like the alien designs, because this is a podcast, but it also had like some comics and graphic novels adapted from it. Like the aliens have got the Martians have the same little antenna that Barbalian has. There's a time travel story called Colonel TikTok in there, which Colonel Weird immediately reminded me of. I feel like I always talk about those. I don't think I've ever brought this up before. This makes me long for some Twilight Zone.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there have been Twilight Zone. There's at least one Twilight Zone episode of.
Yeah.
I woke up in this small town. Everything's weird. Is this purgatory? Am I dead? Am I stuck here?
Right.
There's a really interesting episode of Twilight Zone. I'm just going to tell you the whole plot. Spoiler alert for a TV show that aired in 1965. There's a man who's a criminal, and he's sent to this experimental, like, you're in solitary confinement on the moon. We've sent you to the moon. It's you live alone in a shack on the moon. Okay, this is maybe too inhumane. You're too lonely up there. We've sent you this robot woman, this android, to keep you company.
Mm-hmm.
Years later, it's like, hey, pal, your sentence is done. You know how much time has elapsed up here? Your sentence is done. You're free to come back to Earth. No more jail. No more moon jail. And he's like, well, I must bring this android woman as I have fallen in love with her. It's like, no, she's an android. She weighs so much. She's all metal. You know how heavy she is? We don't have the weight to bring her back on the spaceship. You have to leave her here. So he's forced to go, like, he's lived this, it turned out to be a great life, him and this android woman up on the moon. And they're like, no, you have to come back to Earth with us. We're not leaving you up here. We can't legally leave you up here on the moon. You're coming back with us. She stays here. She has to stay here. You know, she can keep the next prisoner that we send to Moon Jail Company. So, like, he has to go back to Earth without his robot moon wife.
Yeah. That's a good one indeed. I also wanted to give a shout out to another Jeff Lemire book that we covered, Plutona, because that one is more like Stand By Me mixed with superheroes.
Yes.
The kids find the dead body of a superhero in the woods and they don't know what to do with it. So it kind of has that like golden age superhero comics, but then there's like that rural life of just like, kids find a dead body in the woods. Do we poke it with a stick? Like, what do we do with it? So yeah, there is that one. I would also recommend checking out Crisis on Infinite Earths if you want more superheroes dealing with a multiversal crisis, so you can understand what this book is pulling from. It's a very dense book. There's gonna be a lot of characters you don't know and don't understand, but I think you can get the gist of what is happening here. And then as a follow-up to that, which I think is maybe more so my recommendation than Crisis on Infinite Earths, but to kind of understand it, you kind of need to have read Crisis, is Grant Morrison's Animal Man. That one is about a character named Buddy Baker, and he is Animal Man. And he's not really a big-time superhero yet. He's trying to make it into the Justice League International and all of this stuff. But things are just weird, and things end up being very trippy. Yep. And especially once you get into volume 3 and it starts being like, this is like Hellboy meets Grant Morrison meets all of that.
What
but
a
it's
combo.
Just like, read Animal Man by Grant Morrison, because that is a phenomenal book. And I don't know if you read, I think it was, I don't remember if it was the foreword or the afterword that Jeff Lemire wrote.
I did read that.
Where he was just like, I just love superhero comics. And I know as an indie creator at the time, it was like not an accepted thing to be like, I love superhero comics. It was more supposed to be like, down with the man, take that Marvel, take that DC, we're making our own books. But he was still just like, but I still just really love superheroes.
Yeah, it's like, I love any comic. I don't care where it comes from.
Yeah, and I think that really shines through in Black hammer. But I think something like Crisis or something like Animal Man, which, by the way, I know Jeff Lemire went on to write Animal Man for DC at some point. I think that was in the New 52. But so you might want to check that out too. But especially Grant Morrison's Animal Man, because it gets weird and trippy, and what happens to these characters that got destroyed in this multiversal crisis, and what happens to all of the stories that you knew and loved that are now not canon and stuff like that. So yeah, it's good. I would recommend that.
All right, it's pitch time.
It is pitching time, and it's your turn.
Kyle, this week's theme is I bought a new TV and I want pretty animated things to watch on it. Because I've been breaking it in with some nice, full of great effects, visually dazzling live action movies. I haven't watched anything animated on this yet. Nice. I have only had it for 2 days, so it's time. All right. So yesterday, first movie I broke in this new TV with, I watched Doctor Strange. And then immediately after I watched Doctor Strange, I'm like, let's keep it going with cities flipping back in on themselves. Let's watch Inception. And after I watched Inception, I'm like, let's keep it going with weird dream nonsense. Do you want to watch Paprika?
I knew it was coming, yeah.
Paprika is a movie from 2006. This is a Japanese animated film by the director Satoshi Kon, who directed Perfect Blue, correct?
Perfect Blue,
which we watched
Millennium
last
Actress.
year.
My mind is blanking on the TV
Tokyo
show.
Godfathers?
He also did Tokyo Godfathers, which is a favorite of mine as well. What was the TV show that he did? Paranoia Agent, which we covered on an episode of the Whatnauts podcast, which you can also find on our website.
I had to go back through the back catalog to see if you'd already done Paprika. I was very glad to see that you had not.
I've actually only seen Paprika once, and it was about a month or 2 months before Inception came out.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Inception came out and everyone was like, this is mind-blowing, mind-boggling, I was like, that was good. It's not Paprika. It's good.
The basic description of Paprika is that 3 scientists at the Foundation for Psychiatric Research fail to secure a device they've invented, which allows people to record and watch their dreams. A thief uses the device to enter people's minds and distract them with their own dreams and those of others. Chaos ensues. The scientists are assisted by a police inspector and this says a sprite named Paprika. I don't know if that's an accurate description of who she is in the movie, a sprite. But they must try to identify the thief as they ward off the thief's attacks on their own psyches. Dreams, reality, and the movies merge while the characters question the limits of science and the wisdom of Big Brother. I have not seen this. I have seen a video about the movie, so I've seen bits and pieces of it, and I know the general concept of it, but I've not sat down and totally watched Paprika.
All right.
Pitch number 2. Kyle, we live in stressful times right now.
We do.
You may even say it feels like life is like a hurricane. And you may even feel that danger lurks behind you. Kyle, we could watch season 1 of the new Disney version of DuckTales. This is the cartoon that's been airing on Disney Channel over the last couple years. I think this started in 2017, maybe.
Oh, man.
Season 1 is 25 episodes. I watched the first couple episodes of this when it first came out. It is very good. It looks excellent.
I've heard great things.
Bright colors, nice clean lines, beautiful backgrounds. It's so funny. It's a great comedy, and it's a great family story. I'm not going to pitch. I'm not going to give you the byline of DuckTales. It's the same as the one we remember. It's DuckTales. We all know DuckTales. Yeah, really great sci-fi action adventure stories and comedy. And it just sounds like a nice fun mood boost right now. Just sit down and watch a ton of DuckTales.
Yeah. I've heard nothing but good things, so you just made this very difficult already.
I keep saying to myself, what a fool you've been. What are you doing with your life that you have not gone back and now that you have, because like I started watching it and then it was difficult for me to keep up with because I didn't have Disney Channel in my cable package at that time. But now that I've got Disney Plus and it's all up there, I'm like, what do you got to go back and finish DuckTales.
Yeah.
And then pitch number 3, rounding us out. Again, just pretty animated things. I'm a little intrigued by this new Netflix show, The Midnight Gospel. I've seen ads for this. It just looks very brightly colored and legitimately trippy.
I've heard it is very much a stoner show.
Yeah, if there was ever a time to pull out the word trippy to describe something, it seems like it would be The Midnight Gospel. And I looked up these descriptions on IMDb, and because this is such a new show, it's just got like a 1-sentence description. Like nobody from the audience has written a more thorough description yet. So it just says, Clancy, a space caster with a malfunctioning multiverse simulator, leaves the comfort of his home to interview beings in dying worlds. And there was one review of the show on IMDb, which says, beautiful visually and in spirit. So much eye candy to consume that it almost distracts from the profound content of each episode. It is great for watching in bursts or individually, as each episode is self-contained. It is a psychedelic adventure for our protagonist. Recommended strongly. So I don't know hardly anything about the show, but looks good. Looks pretty.
Pitch number 1 was Paprika. Pitch number 2 was the new DuckTales, season 1. And pitch number 3 was Midnight Gospel. How many episodes is Midnight Gospel?
I think it's 8 episodes, and they range from like 20 minutes to, I think the last one was like up to like 33 minutes or something.
Gotcha. Okay.
And DuckTales is 25 episodes.
Yeah. Oh, man. I think I have to go with Paprika.
Okay.
Because, it's so wild. I've only seen it once, and this was years ago. Because Inception came out when we were in high school, right?
2012.
2012? Wow, yeah. So
I think maybe 2011, heck. I just watched this last night.
So I was
in 2010. I was close. It's 2010.
Okay, so we were just in college.
Yes.
I think, I was just entering college. Man, that was a decade ago. So I watched Paprika once a decade ago. Wild. Okay, yeah, and you said if trippy should ever be used on something, it sounds like it should be used on Midnight Gospel. I can guarantee you Paprika is going to blow that out of the water.
I know how weird it is.
It is.
I know it's one of those things.
Absolutely a mindfuck.
It's one of those things like any Grant Morrison comic that is on a level unto its own.
Yeah. But yeah, I have to do that one because I'm a huge fan of Satoshi Kon's work, but a lot of his stuff is also something that even after 5 or 6 times watching it, you're always picking up new things and being like, oh, I get it now. Oh, I missed that. How did I miss that? It was right there. So I think I would actually like to dive into that one more and kind of dissect it a little bit more. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't think we've done anything that extreme.
Yeah, and I am really excited to watch this like days after I've watched Inception.
Yeah. So it'll be fun. It will be interesting. Next week, Satoshi Kon's Paprika.
Yes.
Is what we will be watching. Melissa,
Mm-hmm.
where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WILKYWIT.
You can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter and Instagram. If you guys want to stay up to date with our show, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. Go like, share, subscribe. Leave us a review on iTunes if you like the show. That would help us out a ton.
The app I use for podcasts, which is Podcast Addict, that has just added an in-app review feature that it didn't have before.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
There you go. That would help us out a lot. We actually got a 1-star review a while back. They were like, I can't follow the show. And I was like, that's strange, because I feel like we do a fairly good job of like, this is what we're talking about. This is the premise. Okay, watch out. Here's a spoiler alert. And then it's like, okay, if you followed along with this at home, that's the whole style of our podcast, then you know what's happening. So
we are a little convoluted in our format. And I will say that, like, if you were told beforehand, oh, they don't recap anything, they just go straight in and talk about it, you get it. But I imagine somebody who does not know that beforehand is like, this is a bad recap. And we're like, no, we're not trying to do a recap of anything.
Yeah. So help us even that out.
Yeah.
So if you guys can go give us some good reviews, if you guys like the show, that would be super helpful. But with that being said, let's get out of here. This has been episode 106 of the Whatnauts Review Show. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below who your favorite character in Black Hammer is. We would love to know which ones you guys liked the most. And in the meantime, you guys can subscribe to our channel, which is right up here in this corner. And also go subscribe or go watch one of our videos right down there, because we have other podcasts for you guys to check out. Might not even be an episode of the review show. Who knows? Might be something else. But until then, we will see you guys next time. Bye.